Hello, I present to you the forecast for the next lunar month based on the new moon, which will be on June 25th, 2025. Let's look at the main points contained in the horoscope and, of course, the projections of the planets on the Earth's surface. Let's move on to the article. We see an unusual combination. The luminaries are almost in the same degree together with Jupiter. For Jupiter, this is not the best position as it is in a state of combustion, considering in addition the persistent square of Jupiter to Neptune and Saturn, albeit separating but still quite strong. All this together indicates that the joint projection of the luminaries and Jupiter will be slightly tense. It will not be favorable. I have no reason this month to highlight Jupiter's projection as particularly favorable in any broad sense. But there is a significant addition. Transiting Jupiter will pass through the point of the new moon. Well, just from the moment of the new moon plus 3 days, from June 25th to 27th, and this is a favorable time for showing common sense, for making the right decisions. Also, interesting information in this horoscope is provided by Mercury. It is at the entrance to the sign of Leo, will enter it and form an exact position to Pluto. Therefore, the overall projection of Pluto and Mercury is usually neutral, but since it has entered this tense combination with Pluto, their overall projection will be tense. Mars this month has a sextile aspect with the luminaries, does not have any tense midpoints, so I do not expect major problems from Mars this month. However, the midpoints this month are very numerous and informative. We see that Saturn has fallen into the midpoint between Uranus and Pluto, and also all three outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, have somehow fallen into midpoints that will amplify their malefic influence. Therefore, the projections of the outer planets and Saturn in the next lunar month may hold unpleasant surprises. Some useful advice related to medicine can be given. In the next lunar month, the sign of Cancer is overloaded. This indicates that chronic health disorders related to the stomach area, the breast area may worsen. The likelihood of poisoning, drowning increases. In the next lunar month, extreme behavior on the water should be avoided, as well as the use of watercraft without life jackets or swimming in unfamiliar dangerous places. Forecast of emergencies. In this lunar month, the greatest risks will be associated with the elements of water and fire, which means an increased likelihood of floods, heavy rains, fires, military and criminal conflicts. There will be increased risks of road traffic accidents, as well as emergencies on and under the water. Yes, an important point. In the next lunar month, Uranus will move into the sign of Gemini. The horoscope of this event is interesting in itself. I can say in the form of a blitz forecast that great tension falls on the area of Europe, Central Europe, the Balkans. Yes, well, on July 7th, Uranus will enter Gemini, which means that risks in the air will increase, as well as in transport in general, since the sign of Gemini is associated with transport systems. Naturally, the projection of Uranus after July 7th may be more active, especially on July 6th to 7th, 14th, and 20th. The remaining dates can be seen in the text version of the article, and we will move directly to the maps. So, the astrogeography of Europe. First, I would draw attention to this joint projection of Mercury and Pluto, which passes through Russia, passes through Iran, passes through part of the Arabian Peninsula, through Dubai in particular. In Russia, this area Perm, Izhevsk, Kazan, Samara, Orenburg. This area is under strong tension as combat actions, drone raids are still possible in this area of Russia. This can be noted. The Caspian region adjacent to the Caspian Sea, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and of course Iran are also under great tension in the next lunar month. Tourist trips to Dubai also do not look like a good idea. Apparently, Iran's plans related to blocking the Hormuz Strait in this area also look serious. The joint projection of Jupiter, the Sun, and the Moon passes through Helsinki, Latvia, Lithuania, very precisely through the capital of Bulgaria, Sofia, through the capital of Greece, Athens. But this projection is slightly tense. I do not think that any serious events will be associated with these countries. However, the joint projection of Saturn and Neptune looks tense in the horoscope, and therefore for Sweden, for Poland, for Hungary, as well as for part of the Balkan countries. This projection looks serious. Threatening may cause abnormal events in nature, heavy rains, floods, leaks of some toxic substances, accidents at chemical plants, for example. Naturally, the area of shipping in the Baltic Sea, precisely in this region, also looks potentially dangerous. The main part of Europe in the next lunar month is without special projections, looks neutral. Trips to Iceland next month look successful thanks to the projection of Venus, which passes through, and we can add a few words about the Canary Islands, which experience the projection of Uranus and Mars, the likelihood of fires, accidents, strong storms. For tourism, these places are not very favorable in the next lunar month. Before us is the map of Asia. We see significant tension precisely in the area of the Kuril Islands, in the area of Kamchatka, and the joint projection of Mercury and Pluto. The likelihood of seismic activity in this area is above average. Japan and the Far East experience a slightly tense joint projection from Jupiter, the Sun, and the Moon. I do not expect major changes in this area. However, I would pay more attention to the joint projection of Saturn and Neptune. Together with the projection of Uranus, it forms a clearly tense zone in the area of Baikal, and Ulan-Ude and Irkutsk are definitely affected. These same two projections create prerequisites for a tense month in Mongolia. The joint projection of Saturn and Neptune passes close to Beijing, but fortunately for China, not exactly through Beijing, so no large-scale troubles are expected for China. However, rest in the area of Hong Kong, as well as near the island of Hainan here, looks unfavorable. In addition, this projection creates some tension that concerns Vietnam. China, it must be said, experiences tension in this lunar month, not only from Saturn and Neptune, but in the west of its country also from Mars and Uranus. And note that both Mars and Uranus create significant tension in this area, in the area of the Himalayas, as well as in the area of India, which adjoins Nepal and Tibet. Travel to the mountainous area of India next month looks dangerous. The projection of Uranus creates tension in the area of the popular tourist island of Sri Lanka. But for India, there are also favorable indications. The fact is that Venus, and it is in this place, is perhaps the most favorable planet. Its projection passes near the capital of India, Delhi. It also affects part of Pakistan, so I do not expect any conflict to flare up between these two countries, the risk of which many recently talked about. I see that next month here, on the contrary, there are opportunities for reconciliation, for finding peaceful agreements. The projection of Venus creates favorable conditions for Krasnoyarsk, for example, in Russia. The projection of Venus also affects part of eastern Kazakhstan. This is a favorable place for the development of culture, for business, for tourism. Africa. I'll start with the Mercury-Pluto projection. Here it indicates an increase in tension in the area of the exit from the Red Sea into the Indian Ocean. Risks for shipping in this region. The island of Madagascar is also under tension. Strong tension from Saturn and Neptune will be associated with Libya, Chad, the Central African Republic, as well as the Republic of South Africa. Here, both the luminary Saturn and Neptune are projected. Therefore, for South Africa, a tense period is coming next month. And of course, West Africa, thanks to, in quotes, the projections of Uranus and Mars, looks tense, unfavorable for tourism. However, the projection of Venus indicates excellent conditions for rest in the area of the Cape Verde Islands, North America. I immediately draw attention to the fact that the capital of the USA, Washington, is not directly affected by the projections of the planets, so I do not expect any global large-scale changes in this country next month. Yes, we see strong tension from Saturn-Neptune as well as from Pluto-Mercury, which falls on the eastern part of Canada, Montreal-Halifax, as well as on the areas of the USA adjacent to Canada, here, if I'm not mistaken, the Boston area. This is a time of increased likelihood of road traffic accidents in this area, industrial accidents, as well as emissions of pollutants into the environment. The projection of Mars, in my opinion, although it passes quite accurately through Dallas, Houston, is unlikely to cause any serious incidents this month. I would also neglect the projections of the luminaries of Jupiter this month. However, the projection of Mercury and Pluto quite accurately affects such cities as Vancouver, Portland. Here, Uranus adds its tense energy, so Los Angeles, San Francisco, this zone, which was also active last month, manifested itself through protests and riots, uprisings, may remind of itself in this lunar month. That is, some unrest in California may continue. And we see clear tension in the area of the Hawaiian Islands, likely awakening of volcanoes or some heavy rains, weather deviations. We can point to increased tension in the area of Cuba, in the area of the Dominican Republic, South America. The projections of Pluto and Mercury affect the east of Brazil. In this area, there may be strong storms, the likelihood of increased criminal activity. The projection of Saturn and Neptune is clearly unfavorable this month. It affects the capital of Venezuela. Caracas passes through Peru, near its ancient capital Cusco, now in Peru, another capital Lima, passes through the capital of Bolivia, La Paz, as well as through the capital of Chile, Santiago. The next month looks quite unpleasant for this area of South America. An earthquake is possible, as Saturn is involved here. Possible industrial accidents as well as increased criminal activity. This same projection affects Argentina, but perhaps it can be added that it is precisely in this sparsely populated and little-known part of Argentina that those areas are located. These are areas of compact residence of Germans who moved there after the Second World War. It was there that some Nazi criminals lived, some of whom were caught, and some lived their lives peacefully in this part of Argentina. And it is precisely there in the next lunar month that Saturn and Neptune are projected. How this may manifest, let's observe. Australia, the Southeast Asia region we see is under tension. Here Saturn-Neptune is projected, passes through Indonesia, through the island of Borneo, Malaysia. Rest in this area does not look favorable in the next lunar month. Perhaps the greatest tension this month will concern the central part of Australia. Almost the entire island of Papua New Guinea, the city of Darwin, falls into the zone of influence of Mercury-Pluto. There may be strong storms, strong winds, the likelihood of road traffic accidents, risks of industrial accidents, the projection of Venus. It can, of course, be slightly expanded and say that for Brisbane and Sydney, the next lunar month looks successful. And also this group of islands, offhand, I don't remember their name, but here rest in the next lunar month looks clearly favorable. However, in the area of New Caledonia, in the area of the Fiji Islands, in the western part of New Zealand, the projections of Uranus and Mars may create unfavorable conditions for shipping, possible storms, strong winds, the likelihood of fires and conflicts between people. This concludes the overview of the projections of the planets in the horoscope for the new moon on June 25th, 2025. I wish you to have a good next summer month and to meet the entry of Uranus into the sign of Gemini on July 7th with a good mood. Goodbye.